Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to this very wet and very apt for how our weather is at the moment. Rainy day at Brands Hatch. Joining me in the commentary room for Eracing and this multi-class challenge tonight is no other than my colleague and man, I was going to try and say brother-in-arms or some other thing there, but it just came out wrong. Trevor, how you doing, my man?
I'm glad you held back there, Daxy. I daren't think where you were going with that one, but yeah, no, I'm great. Thank you very much, and really looking forward to this race tonight. Brands Hatch, a fantastic old school track. None of this modern etch-a-sketch rubbish, and you know we've got some really challenging conditions tonight. So hopefully we're going to see some really good racing. And the real shaker tonight, around this being round 3 at Brands Hatch, is Ben Milden, who won round 1 at Nürburgring in the GT3 class, and round 2 at Barcelona, is not with us tonight.
Oh, is he not with us?
So this is no, Ben's not here tonight. So that is going to blow the GT3 class wide open, because Preset and Flash have got, well, Flash particularly has got a chance, because Preset isn't with us tonight either, and Flash is 20 points behind Milden, and there's 25 points for a win.
Oh wow! Well, it's all in.
So I think
then.
Very, very much so. And the other one is in GT4. Vaclav Pospisil is leading it. Well, he's a joint leader with KK Prince, and KK Prince isn't with us tonight. So there's a chance there for Pospisil to break away in the GT4 class. So with I think, as you mentioned earlier, the football and the Father's Day has meant a few withdrawals.
Yeah.
So I think it's blown things wide open.
Yeah.
But we have got some new drivers as well tonight.
Well, this is it. Hopefully, new drivers are going to get some well. Let's be fair. New drivers are going to get a bit of a gimme, because they're not going to have all the pack to be able to fight against. So they're going to get the opportunity for some better points than possibly expected. And then obviously the people who are dedicated. Well, I don't want to gripe on anyone, but the more dedicated ones to the cause, they're going to benefit from it. Like you say, Peter Postle and Flash J, they're both going to benefit from this.
Oh, very much so. And the other interesting thing is, I've been following qualifying, is that they're obviously very much getting their head around the track conditions, because the times have gradually been coming down, and none of those real pack of top 5 drivers, none of them has really been able to jump clear. It's all been the case of one driver gets a slightly quicker lap, and then another driver and another driver. And it may just be the case that during this session, as the cars have been going around, they have created a little bit of a drier line, and I've experienced this in races, and they created this little bit of a drier line, and what's happened is, as it's got towards the end of the session, the track just sort of rubbed in a little, despite the fact it's wet, and meant that you can get just a little bit faster lap out of it.
Yeah. Now, looking at the weather, I'll be honest with you, at least for the foreseeable future, it's looking like it's going to stick wet. I don't think it's not absolutely, I don't know, well now, I don't think it's enough to wash out the track, but I don't think it's enough to, do you reckon it's going to be enough to leave a dry line at all, or is that even going to be able to get a chance to settle in, do you reckon, Trevor?
No, I don't think it's going to dry out, not with this amount of rain. They're classing the track conditions as wet. If it was sort of damp, you've got a chance that, you know, the heat of the tyres will work their way through and create some tram lines.
Yeah.
But I think in these conditions, there's just one choice. And because the other thing is a 2-hour race tonight, and they have to have 2 compulsory pit stops, I believe.
Yes,
so
they do.
It'll be interesting to see if they try and juggle that. If the conditions change, what's going to happen. And the other factor is, I think we're running into the night as well now, and obviously temperatures drop.
Yeah.
And sometimes the engineer within the game will say, and I've been caught out with this myself, the engineer will say, right, track conditions, ideal tyres are slicks. You go to slicks, and because it's cooler and the track's damp, you just can't get them to turn on, and the tyre temperatures just drop, and you're a sitting duck as you sort of spin yourself into the barriers. So, and you lose so much time with a pit stop, you can't afford to, you know, abandon it and go back. So you're rather stuck. So I think we've got a chance for quite a mixed up race here, and it'll be interesting to see even if some of the GT4 guys can can get in amongst the back of the GT3 pack because of the way the pit stops have mixed things up.
Yeah, this is very true. And with it being a super wet track, I don't know how they're going to take round this back complex as I'm on board with GT Racer at the moment as he's going round through Westfields, up down Dingledale and towards Sheens. These corners are normally super attack, super aggressive. They're just not gonna have to be. There we go. Like I say, as I said that, he's just shot off and got into the gravel trap anyway. He's gonna pause and go back to the garage. Yes, he is. I think everyone is lining up and getting ready, resorting out their setups before we start off with this 2-hour race. So let's see how we're getting on so far. At the moment, we are looking at first place for the GT3s is Michael Gallo, followed by Thomas von der Eck, then Flash J, fourth GT Racer, fifth Mikael Stefanak, then Hubris E36, then Thomas Mengar, CV Dave, and then no, that's the last for the GT3s jumping on board. And then first in the GT4s is, well, I'll let you say this actually. I'll let you take over the GT4s here, Trevor. Go for it. Who's out of GT4s Luna?
Well, I don't know if it's popular. Harusa.
Yep.
And then K3 Miss in the Mercedes. Peter Postle, a regular driver with us. And ERC Mados in 12th, Vaclav Pospital in 13th.
Oh.
And I think something's got slightly haywire because you've apparently qualified 17th there, Daxi.
Have I?
Yeah, is there something you need to tell us?
You know, I'm even from the commentary box. You can't put me down, Trevor. You can't put me down. No way. But I think it's why I accidentally logged in on the driver password initially, so it's registered me as being present on the track at one point. Oh dear, whoopsie daisy.
It's just whether the guys at home wondered whether or not you were joining in the race. That'll be an interesting concept, trying to commentate from within the race.
Me trying to drive fast and competently, then try and concentrate on commentating at the same time. It's never going to happen. I'd sit in a gravel trap in the car and just commentate from the side of the track.
Oh, what about a great idea? You could be a passenger and then commentate. What just an idea. I don't know what wild concepts there.
That'd be brilliant. 505. I hope you're listening. Amazing concepts here. If not for an addition to this game, maybe for the Assetto Corsa 2 that you'd love to come out, but that's ages away. 2024, isn't it? I don't know. Too long away.
Really?
Yes, 2024. Really? They're saying, yeah. Oh.
I struggle to commit to anything next week.
I know.
Just for those guys out there that don't know too much about this track, Brands Hatch is a well-established track in the what we call, I suppose, the Garden of England. It's the county of Kent. So most people know where London is. We're just southeast of London, heading down towards Dover. But the circuit we're using tonight is 2.6 miles long. It's known as the GP circuit. There is also the shorter Indy circuit, which is used for motorcycle racing, touring cars, and so on. This track was originally laid down in the 1920s. But originally, it was a grass track. Was just around a small Indy circuit, and the tarmac track we know today was laid down just after World War II, and has been in constant use ever since. Oh. And there's a host of things such as World Superbikes, Formula One, British touring cars, British Superbikes, World Superbikes, and I think back now, I'm the guesstimate a bit here. In the back days of Carl Fogarty, I think one of the events where he was in World Superbikes was the biggest one-day sporting event attendance ever in the UK.
Oh wow!
At Brands Hatch.
Oh wow!
There's one for you. There's one for your sort of nerdy list.
That is quite impressive.
So there's 20 seconds. Having been there and knowing what the track, I've actually, for my sins, worked there in the past, and it's been getting in and out of the track is a little bit of a challenge. So Lord knows what it was like on that day. So it was. I can imagine it must have been quite a while before people got out. So
I can imagine.
But no, it's a wonderful circuit. It's the natural amphitheatre of the Indy part of the circuit, which is up round sort of Druids and then round Surtees and Clearways. gives brilliant viewing compared to a lot of these old airfield circuits. You get great views, particularly somewhere in the bottom from Paddock Hill Bend.
Yeah.
You can get really good views of the cars in many points of the track. So it's a fantastic venue.
Oh, nice. Well, as they start off now for their formation lap, and again the continuing wet, I don't think it's going to change from this. I've not seen it change. I'm not sure if it changed when it went to race mode or not, but let's see how they get on. I've never had the pleasure of going to. I'll take it you've been to Brands Hatch before then, Trevor, at the actual track yourself, or?
Oh. Once or twice. Once or twice. I can date back. Oh, I can go back, and this is one for the older readers out there, because I think this was probably before you were born, Daxi. I think it was about 1988, 88, yeah, around about 87 or 88.
I was alive. Barely.
Just. And do you remember a racer called Ron Haslam?
No.
It was quite famous around that period.
No, I wouldn't have known that.
No. Okay. Leon Haslam, his son, is quite a respected rider in World Superbikes. Nice lad. I have met him in the past for various long, complicated reasons we'll go into another time. And he was doing a one-off ride there at one of these late season events on the Norton rotary motorcycles. And I don't know if you've ever come across those, but Norton were having one of their various sort of phoenix moments of coming out of the fire and reinventing themselves, and had developed a rotary engine to put into a motorbike, which was remarkably quick, particularly in a straight line. And they there's some great footage for Snetterton Circuit with these guys racing, because when they used to wind up the straight line, they were so much quicker than everything else, and you got this great shot of these bikes going along the horizon, and then all of a sudden these two Nortons overtake all the leaders, and just one Norton goes each side, and they just got like 15-20 mile an hour more speed. It was outrageous.
Oh wow.
But Ron Haslam was having a one-off ride on this bike at the event at Brands Hatch. So I'm back with you now. So I'll let you take on the start.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, they are coming round Clark's now. Formation lap, slowing them down. Everyone's now jostling back up together. We are I am thinking of maybe trying to either do the heli-cam, but what a good camera shot that is, coming down that hill and back up again. I have to give this game credit. It is now really coming to its own now. They brought the hearts off now. They're off. Two Bentleys taking first and second. So far, no hitting as of yet as we go through. And it seems all pretty clear. Oh no, we have got contact with two of the GT4 cars at the back there. I don't know which ones, if you can see what they are, Trevor.
I will just hop back. I think one was Peter Postle, and the other one was, it's not Mados, CV Dave, who's actually one of the GT3 cars. He's shuffled right down to the back of the pack.
Okie dokie, right. Well, in that case, it's it's done a bit of a mischief there. I saw the Audi, that blue Audi, unfortunately have a bit of a kiss with the orange Porsche. I am going to now jump out so I can see who's who, because it doesn't let me do that initially. Yeah, I think that Stefanak must have took a little kiss with Hubris. I think it's Hubris in that orange 911. Yeah, I think it is.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got the Thomas Menga in the blue one just in front of him there, as they go round and they come up to Sheens. Go around there, so I've just realised I'm bellowing into my mic compared to the rest of you. Right, apologies.
Oh, we've got a problem. Who's had a bit of a problem at the back? Just bear with me. I'm just trying to work out who it is. Oh, CV Day's had another problem. He's having a nightmare. He's right round the back of the circuit by Westfield. He was sort of stopped on the side, so I don't quite know how he would have landed there by making a mistake, but I'd imagine he did in some way, shape or form. But he's got going again. So, but he's about 20% of a lap behind the GT4 guys, so he's got a little way to catch those up.
He's got a long way to catch those guys up. So maybe early. I don't know what he's had to do pit-wise with tactics here. It's going to be a bit of a hard one to try and do multiple pit tactics with that. You know, as you saw, K3M. I've got to say, what's it?
Miss CZ?
Yeah.
Well, I did a little bit of action up front. Michael Gallo made a mistake down at.
Yeah.
So, Michael Gallo made a mistake down at Graham Hill. Benton got it sideways on the exit, and he got about a 2-second gap on Rasek, and that's gone down to just about half a second. So he built himself a little bit of space, and then just got it slightly wrong, and all that gap just disappeared into thin air.
Oh no.
I'm also thinking to have a good little battle with I think 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. They're all very close at the moment.
Oh, they really are.
That's Stefanak, GT Racer, Menga, and Hubis.
Yeah, you're right. It's starting off with flat.
Oh, round.
Who's that there?
Thomas Menga went round coming out of Sheen.
Oh no. See,
that's such a difficult corner, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a difficult corner. It'll spit you out, and you're right. They're only down to 3 now. Just that orange Porsche at the back of that pack there, as they will battle through. Thomas Menga, I'm guessing he's now going to be caught up with the GT4 cars in the back or just before.
He's got going again. Yeah, he's just in front, which is going to be really good for him because rather than got stuck in amongst them, he has kept clear. So he's got clear track in front of him. He's lost around about 10 seconds.
All right, okie dokies. Well, looking on board at the moment, Postle is looking to try and take a manoeuvre on Vaclav.
And this, I think, is quite important for the championship because Peter Postle is 4th at the moment, and Vaclav is leading the championship. So, and Mados is getting in there as well.
Oh, look at it. Go on, Mados, get in there, sir. Get down on the
inside. He's trying to go around the outside. That's never going to work out there, I don't think. And where they're coming up do now at Surtees, I always find they're really difficult. Where Peter Postle's just turning in, I always find that so difficult to know where to turn in and where to get on the throttle because it's not a nice constant radius corner. It tightens up on you, and you're trying to work the best combination to, get good turning, but also get good acceleration out. So I always find that corner a real challenge because you get it wrong, you lose speed the whole way down Pilgrim's Drop, and then coming up to Hawthorne's where they are at the moment is where someone will dive up the inside and you've lost the position.
Well, this is it. I find I say I try, and probably not the fastest line at all, but I try and do a sort of a wide girth brake turn into it. So I'll brake in that straight line, turn nice and late in, and then cut it nice and tight up and round that hill, trying to get that power on as I'm going up the hill, and see how I can do it there. That's what I found, at least the quickest way for me. I don't know if it is the quickest way, but there we go. As we are currently still watching the fight between, well, it's backed up a bit between Vaclav and Mados at the moment. Mados has got up into 12th place. How are the GT3 guys looking?
They're reasonably spread at the moment. CV Davies working his way back through because obviously he had those problems on lap 1, and he's just going up the inside of Peter Postle into Druids. But that's not really about, even though it is technically a battle for position on track, his car has got so much more pace that picking these guys off is going to be quite straightforward for him. So he's now got his way back up to 10th. So he's only got 2 of the GT4 cars in front of him now. So he seems to have got back into his groove now after those little first lap adventures. He seemed to have got a little bit more into the groove. So I think he's going to work his way back through those guys in front, and I think he's only got about 3 seconds up to Kate Harusa and Kamis, who are battling very much for the front end of GT4. But I think they both realise it's a 2-hour race and there's no point in throwing it all against the fence, with less than 10 minutes into the race, because all you're going to do is have a long pit stop and blow your race apart.
Oh yeah, for sure. And slowly but surely, GT Racer is catching back up with Michael Stefanak as they are now going around Druids down towards Graham Hill corner. Still, Hubris is in the back mirror of GT Racer. He's keeping himself in that fighting. I'm going to say, he's not dropping off the slipstream. He's keeping himself in a position where, if anything does happen, he can capitalise, but not near enough to be able to pounce at any given moment quite yet. But it does seem that Flash J has got these two lined up behind him, ready to take that third position away from him at any given point. You know what I've not actually checked on so far this race?
Oh! Von was out on the grass coming out of Westfield. And Flash has got through on the inside going up to Sheen, and he's got the move done. And Flash is up into second, and Von Rassick is down into third. It just, he turned in was fine, but it just understeered off across the grass on the exit. And Flash didn't need any more of an invitation, was straight up the inside as Von Rassick tidied it all up on the grass and got back on the track. So they've just swapped position. But Von Rassick doesn't seem to have lost any pace, so they crossed the finishing line to complete another lap.
Look at that. And I was just about to say, you know what, we've not checked on first, second or third in a little while. As soon as I say that, it all starts kicking off. As they go through down into Druids here. Nice defending there by Flash. That Bentley looking to get on the inside line. It's one of the most, I think it's one of the most pivotal takeover points on this track, that hairpin for Druids. Obviously, if you want to go fast as you can, you need to take a nice wide line into it and then cut in nice and tight. But doing that will leave the door wide open for anyone trying to tackle down on the inside. So defend you have to and keep that closed off. Is there any other places that you try and take advantage on this track at all?
I do. I do look at Paddock Hill Bend, and you have to be a little bit brave for that one.
Yeah.
And you're better off probably with your route of, Paddock Hill Bend's the first corner, and again, it's a bit like Surtees. It's not one of these scaletric kind of corners where you've got exact turn-in, apex and exit points. Yeah. It's quite a tricky one to get a perfect line through, and there's lots and lots of different lines you can do. And just sometimes you can get lucky, and if the car in front of you they were coming up to clearways now with Flash and Von Rassick. If you made a bit of a mistake around this corner, you've got a chance to get in the slipstream and maybe just chuck it up the inside the Paddock Hill Bend. You've got to be a little bit brave, but it is, you can see the camber there as they turn in and the track drops away. So you've got to be a little bit brave. But no! Speaking of the which, Flash, it was almost like we predicted it, wasn't it?
Curse of the commentator.
And action in the background.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and GT Racers up the inside of Hubis. Oh, contact between GT Racer and Hubis. Hubis, I think, had made a mistake coming out of Paddock Hill Bend as well. Now, whether this means the conditions are getting worse and the rain's getting heavier. And Hubis is out on the grass coming out of Paddock Hill Bend, but GT Racer had stuffed it down the inside going up into Druids, and it looked a pretty clean manoeuvre to me, but Hubis sort of didn't quite give him, I would say, almost enough space, and they just briefly touched side by side. But the winner in this looks like Mikhail Stefanak, who is catching them up. He's in sixth for the moment, catching up GT Racer in fourth and Hubis in fifth. So this front pack is keeping remarkably close, down to sixth. There's very little in it, apart from Mikhail Gallo, who's cleared off 5 seconds up the road in the rain.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, quite surprised. I would have thought stuff would start to already break down and split up, and especially with it being raining, especially with it being Brands Hatch, it's not something like you say, not a scale-electric track where you can just keep that consistent lap time in. So to see them still at 10 minutes in to this 2-hour race, fighting away, long may it continue. Let's have a look.
Yes, and I think the other factor that comes in these conditions is making mistakes, and that's probably, we've seen majority drivers we've watched have had a little bit of a sort of ooh-ah moment where they've gone wide or gone deep or something like that. Whereas, okay, we haven't been on board with him much, but Mikhail Gallo seems to be just pumping in those lap times consistently, lap after lap, which is what you need to do in these conditions, because people will make mistakes. And it looks like Hubis really wants that position back off GT Racer. And it looks like Mikhail Stefanak has dropped a little bit away there in sixth from off these two after they had a little bit of a moment into Druids. So, but it's good to see there's some nice tight battles remaining tonight, because sometimes the guys have got a little bit spread out, but it bodes well for later in the race, particularly if the track conditions change, because at the moment, the track conditions I'm getting is that it's damp rather than wet. Now, I don't think that'll be brave enough for anyone to put slicks on, but it does show things are changing.
Yeah, I have to admit, I know the rain looks harder on the actual screen, but the actual track itself doesn't look to have water sitting on it at any point. It looks damp, but not actual standing water. So hopefully it will stay damp. We'll see how it goes and keep it going through. But I've just realised we're watching a Porsche race really hard in the wet, and these cars, well, I don't know if you know, but they're famously, most of the cars on this game will have an ECU map for different types of things, you know, really aggressive ECU mapping, not as aggressive, and then there's some set for wets, etc, etc. Famously, the 911 doesn't have a wet ECU map at all.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
So what's it? Just wind up the traction control and hang on, is it?
So yeah, basically it's to set it at the most.
Oh, hang on. Sorry to cut across. GT Racer made a mistake out of Graham Hill Bend. Hubis is going down the inside into Surtees, but they're just catching one of the GT4 cars. Oh, it's got nicely out of the way. It's ended up on the grass. But Hubis has got that position back from GT Racer. Exactly that thing we were just talking about. How just one little mistake changes the positions. So that's exactly what happened. GT Racer made that little mistake and Hubis was all over him. And now it's the other way around. GT Racer is really hard chasing on the back of that Porsche now.
Indeed. You know what? I'll give Hubris his credit. He's been brave in that Porsche. But actually, both of those, both that Mercedes and that Porsche, have been very brave. Some touching curb touch. Maybe I wouldn't even dare go near in the wet. So you know, definitely took in the brave pills this morning before they go there as they dive down through Clark's, up and down up to Paddock Hill, and that Mercedes is not letting up on that Porsche at all. It might have a look on the inside, not being able to do so. Heavy braking down into Paddock here. A bit heavy, having to watch out for that 911 as he took the real defensive line through there, but had to not hit him at the same time.
But I think this is going to fall towards Mikhail Stefanak in a minute, because these two, I think, are very much holding each other up by not taking the optimum lines through these corners and either driving defensive or aggressive. And I know he's 3 seconds behind, but I reckon we'll see that gap come down, because these guys, GT Racer and Hubert, seem to be on a very similar pace, don't they, at the moment?
Indeed they do. I have to admit, I thought, am I right thinking Mikhail Stefanak was up to about 10 seconds away? Now he's closed that down to 3 seconds. So is that what's going on there?
My eyes were seeing the same thing with GT Racer taking a bit of a weird line there. I don't know if he was just catching a slide, but then he's dropped back. No, I think Mikhail Stefanak was always about 3-5 seconds in the background, so I don't think he's wound them in quite that quickly. So I think it was not a massive gap. He did close up when they had a little moment into Druids. They did close up onto Mikhail. Sorry, did close up onto GT Racer and Hubis quite a lot. But then they pulled away again once they seemed to have settled out. But obviously now they're having a little bit of argy-bargy again.
Oh, right. I'm right. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something which we should have done a little bit more already so far. I'm going to give first place a bit of airtime, because he's just been off into the distance. 5-second gap between him and Von der Eck behind him. He's just absolutely flying off his gallow. As he's now hitting the first back marker, the AMG of Peter Possel. Flashed him through there, down that straight. Heavy brake in 4th gear, turn in, power back on, hammer down towards Westfields. Absolutely ploughing it in that bendy there. I'm going to do a bit of onboard, I reckon, see how it's going. What do you think, Trevor?
Sounds like a good. I like a good, nice bit of onboard. Unfortunately, I'll probably get a bit carried away and do it slightly too often, but I do like a nice bit of onboard. Particularly when you get overtake manoeuvres, you always want one of those cameras that spin round and watch the car go by, don't you?
Yeah.
But I don't think quite Assetto Corsa is quite up to that yet.
Not quite. It's getting there, but not completely. I have to admit, it does look very good. GoPro views. Down heavy.
So I'm just.
So I was just saying, as he breaks down heavy through and into Druids there. So, and now what were you going to say, Trevor?
I was just watching the battles further down. I was just trying to see if anything took my eye as to anything that was particularly closing up. But I can't see anything really at the moment. But I think the interesting thing at the moment is that some of these drivers like Michael Gallo and Thomas von Rasek, this is their first round in the championship, so they're not really going to have a material effect on what's happening further up the title race. But the one that will be having an effect is Flash, because he's going to, I think, be very close, if not, no, I don't think he'll overhaul, but I think he's going to get quite close to Ben Milden. So Ben's absence for this week, he's going to put him under a little bit of pressure as we go into the next round, if Flash can hold on to that third place. And also with Hubers, he's currently running in 5th. Michael, who's in 4th, is not with us either, so he's going to have quite a good run. He's not going to be sort of right at the front, but it's certainly going to give him a sort of leap of points to move things forward. So this bit of a mix-up of a race with a few new entrants and a few missing drivers, he's going to do the championship, I think, quite a lot of good.
I think so. So I'm just watching Gallo cut through these back markers here. I'm wondering if he's just gone past through K3 and Hurus to CZ. How would you even pronounce that? Hurusy?
Harusa. I think of Hayabusa as in the Harusa.
It's probably Harusa 2Z.
CZ. Well, we are apparently quite popular in the Czech Republic. Rumour has it. I don't think we're quite going to get an invite to the ambassador at the palace, but I think allegedly. I know, incredible.
I want to say, me and Trevor would be absolutely delighted to come meet the ambassador or king or queen of the Czech Republic. Do we have a king and queen, Trevor?
I don't know. They're republic, so I doubt it.
Okay.
The clue's in the title.
Come and meet your prime minister and do commentary over there and say hello to our adoring fans. But we only fly first class. It's Trevor. He's got bad back. You can't give him economy. He needs a first class, don't you, Trevor?
Yeah, of course. And I'll only go to the ambassadors if he's got Ferrero Rocher, because that's that's the way it has to work.
Can't cut corners now. Just can't cut corners.
Talking of cutting corners, GT Racer, having made that mistake and fallen back, has wound himself back onto the rear bumper of that Porsche, and he's looking quite raced. He's gone the grass into the way in the clearways. That's not the best line, but he's looking. Oh, has he got my Paddock Hill move? Hubers went a little bit wide on the exit. They're side by side across the line. They're heading up towards Paddock Hill. It's going to be the last of the late breakers. I think GT Racer's got it done. Hubers is trying to go around the outside, but he's out onto the curb. They're still side by side. They're going up towards Druids. GT Racer, decides to back out of it. Hubers takes the racing line. But they're now catching up onto some more of the GT4 racers. So they're catching up with Harusa and K3 Miz. So this could give GT Racer a bit of an opportunity to close in. These GT4 guys generally are pretty good at getting out of the way. And right on cue, Harusa is exactly that. But they're just going around Surtees. But it looks like after that little bit of a side-by-side, GT Racer has fallen back about a second or so behind. So behind Hubis. So I think he's going to gather himself up and have another go. He's caught. He caught up with K3 Mist right in the middle of Westfield, and that's cost him a little bit of time. K3 Mist didn't really do anything wrong. It was just unfortunate timing of where. Hubis has got it left. He's got it right. Down the inside. Has he got it? Come on.
So close.
Where's the cameras? No. That is such a shame.
Really good shot. Go, boys, push.
Yeah, I can see it now. I can see it coming through the feet. GT Racer, I think, could have been a little bit braver into there. But again, there's still an hour and 40 minutes to go.
This is it. He's gone back up once. He can do it again. Why waste time making it more than once? They brake hard, heavy. That, I have to tell you, those Porsches, they just point so well, Trevor, those Porsches.
Which, considering the engine's in the wrong place, is quite incredible.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing. Hubis has made another mistake coming out of Graham Hill. Again, I think the winner of this tonight is going to be the one that makes the least mistakes. I think that's the difference. Yeah.
Because I think it's the conditions are so tricky. Oh, here we go. Going down Dingledale. Not Dingledale. Oh, well, Philbin's drop. Wake up, England. So, I was getting all excited there. Oh, and Hubis is wide onto the grass on coming to the entrance to Westfield, and he's on the grass on the exit. Oh, and GT races through. GT races through and gone. He was putting him under pressure, and he cracked him. He was on the grass going into Hawthorns, and then he was on the grass again at Westfield, and GT Racer didn't need a second invite to come through. Now, I think the interesting would be GT Racer seems to get in front, then make a mistake, and Hubis takes the position back. So I think if GT Racer wants this 5th place, he needs to get his head down, get going, but not make mistakes. And that seems to be the theme of the night. The ones that make the mistakes are the ones that are going to fall back in the field.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have to admit, I generally do feel a bit bad for Hubris there, because he just pushed a bit too hard in that corner and then felt the pressure from the Mercedes behind him, and late braked it and then pushed it into the gravel a little bit, just gave that position to GT Racer. He literally did not have to do anything apart from just drive his standard line, and the Porsche just gave up that position. Like you say, plenty of time for him to make it back up. These guys have been just back and forth in this whole race round. One seems to be a bit fast around this corner, one round the other corner. It's going to be a bit of a ding-dong for the rest of this fight here. How are GT4 guys doing, Trev?
Oh, just having a look. K3 Miss is still in the lead. Harusa is around about 3 seconds behind. So they're staying, I think, reasonably static from where we've seen them before. And then there's a bit of a gap back to Peter Postle in 3rd. He's about 13 seconds down the track.
We've had Thomas Mengar go off down off paddocks. He's span out and he's gone into the barrier from the looks of it here. He's just trying to recover himself. There's a lot of damage to the front of that Porsche. Yeah, he's just waiting to get a bit of clear traffic so he can come back onto the tarmac, but that Porsche is not in a good way at all.
Or is it so bad he's going to have to effectively teleport back to the pits?
Yeah,
because he's not coming. Oh, yeah, no, he's left.
Yeah, was he left? No, I think, well, is he pitted or is he left?
I think he's left. We're down to 12 cars. But the other one that was I was quite interested by in GT4 is, out of the 5 runners, the last one is Vaclav Pospisil, who is leading the championship at the moment. So I would have expected him to be a little bit further up, and I'm quite surprised that he's down there in 5th. Now, I don't know if he's had a moment that we've missed, but usually he's a lot further up than that, and he's quite a way off the back of the next position in GT4. So it's not as though he's sort of battling for it or anything like that. He's like half a lap adrift, which I'm quite surprised by. So whether these conditions are just not suiting him and the Audi, I don't know, but I'm quite surprised considering looking at his results in the first round. He won the race, and in the second race he was 2nd. So he's certainly got pace. So the main difference obviously is the conditions here tonight.
Yeah, it must be. I have to admit, I've not driven the Audi much. Well, actually, I've not driven the Audi in the rain at all, so I don't know what it's like at all. But I know it can be. It doesn't like getting pushed past the point or getting pushed to the edge too hard, because it will just go see ya and let you go into the shadow realm with all bells and whistles attached to it. So I don't know if that just gets absolutely multiplied when it comes to race, when it comes to wet race environment as well. I have to admit, Trevor, I have gone from being the McLaren Z20S driver recently, and I've gone back to the Ferrari 488 Evo.
Yeah, but both of those cars have a fundamental fault, don't they?
Well, the engine's behind.
Yeah. On with Enzo Ferrari.
I knew you would say that.
The horse has got to be in front of the car.
Oh no, you want to get
all these.
Imagine it this way, right? Yes, you're right. The horse has to pull the cart, but if you ever sat in a wheelchair, how nice is it being pushed on from behind? Imagine if that horse is just pushing your wheelchair from behind. That's what that car is there. It's a horse pushing you in a wheelchair. If I've never given a better analogy, Trevor, I don't know what to say.
I've just got this picture of like Black Beauty nudging a wheelchair along. Well, I'm not quite sure. If anybody's just joined the stream, don't worry. We've all been drug tested before we came online. We're just having a little bit of a moment. We'll all be okay, and very soon.
We'll be fine. Well, no, put that jacket back. Don't you try and wrap me up in it. That's fine. They're putting it away. But what a race, and what an absolute race we're having. I have to admit, even though it is a little bit sparse on numbers, this track here does look absolutely phenomenal. Brands Hatch in the rain. I know it's not a bright, clear day, but I don't know about you, Trevor, but some of the cars around here just look absolutely stunning.
They do, and I think we may have a little bit of a developing battle for second and third, because I thought Flash had dropped a little bit further behind Von Rasek, and the gap at the moment was 1.5 seconds. Now I might be wrong, but looking in the background there, it looked like Von Rasek was making a little bit of a mistake coming out of Westfield, and whether he's worn the tyres out or something like that, but it just to me looks like Flash is just creeping up on the back of second place there, Von Rasek.
Does seem to be slowly catching. I'm going to keep an eye on him. I'm also going to try and keep an eye on GT Race and Hubris, because Hubris is coming back into the mix with I think he's 0.8 of a second behind him than what he was, and it's dropped back to about a second now, but those two aren't too far away from each other. Interesting to see. It's a field mainly governed by either Bentleys, Audis or Porsches for the GT3s. That is the free picking cars.
Well, it does always seem to be with those one or two cars that bumble to the top of the preferred selection, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And whether it's for driving style or whether the cars particularly suit conditions or tracks, it does. There always seems to be those that whatever the games people do, there always seems to be those ones that just bumble their way to the top of the favourite choice, don't they? And just about Flash has got that gap down to a second now to Von Rasek. So our eyes weren't deceiving us. He is winding him in a little bit. So whether there's wear or whether it's the conditions are changing, I'm not quite sure. But we are starting to move into that window where they might be thinking about a first pit stop, because in an ideal world you'll split it up into 3 sections, and we're just gone under 1.5 hours to go. So the normal point for a pit stop would be at with 40 minutes gone, so that's in 10 minutes time, and nobody's taken that jump yet. But I wonder if, for example, someone like Flash will think, well, maybe if I go for an early stop, I might get fresher tyres and do the undercut on Von Rasek. Don't know. What would you do?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'd be definitely worth the gamble to just try and jump in early and see if you get the jump on them. I have to admit, we've been commentating for a little while now, and of all the tactics I've seen, most people seem to be better off from the early jump in and jump out than someone trying to push it later. Don't get me wrong, I've seen the latter work as well. Someone push till late and then do a pit then, and they've given themselves a nice big window to be able to do it in, and it's worked. But I've seen the earlier dive and get out work more favourably on average across drivers. So I reckon that would be the better thing to do.
Yeah, I think that you could well be right there. The other thing, I'm just looking at the comments, and the guys suggest you might want to nudge up your volume a little bit if you hadn't noticed that feedback from the guys out there.
Oh, hello, hi Simon, thank you very much. Sorry, let's say hello to everyone in the chat room, and let me turn my mic up quickly here. See what you guys have to do if you want to hear my beautiful tones get louder. There we go. That should be a bit better there. There we go.
They're saying I sound as I expected. They said I sound great, so I'm used to that.
There we go. Right, let me know if that's any better.
And modest. Yeah. Just I'm going to say this name wrong, but Ondrej Valesek. He says, "Good to have drug open-minded commentators." I will make it clear we were having a discussion that may have appears hallucinogenic, but we are 100% clean. I would like to make that clear to all our sponsors and friends out there.
Indeed.
Maybe the odd bit of alcohol will pass my lips. We've started it now. They've started it now.
I know. We've let these walls down. I have to admit, I have drinking.
We've got somebody off. We've got a yellow flag.
Have we? Right, let's get back to
it. Blue car. Peter Postle spun coming out of Surtees.
Oh no, Peter.
I just caught the end of it.
Not having a good night of it at all, is he?
No, he's not. He had a bad first race, didn't he? Because he ended up in the wall at Nürburgring before they even got to the first corner, and his night never really recovered from there. But because Poppersill is so far back, he has actually recovered, and I think he may well still be third in that battle. But Mados is coming for him behind, so he may well have damage on that. So if I was him and he's got damage, I would be tempted to shoot to the pits. So, because I don't think it's actually cost him a position, has it? Because K3 Miss and Harusa were out there battling for the lead, and Peter Postle was in third. Yeah. So despite losing all that time, he's not actually lost a position. However, he has got the close attentions of Mados, and also Peter Postle has decided to stay out. So hopefully he didn't contact the wall there, and because you can quite often come out of Surtees and connect with that wall quite easily. But Mados can see a position here, but in the background, the GT Racer and Hubris battle is coming up to join this GT4 battle for third. So this could all get a little bit busy because GT's by already, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely squeezed through there, and it's a bit of a shame there because Mados was getting right up behind Peter Postle, and due to GT Racer getting in between him, wanting to put some GT4 cars between him and Hubris. That's just broke down that little chase down between Mados and Peter Postle, because he was on the attack there. It looked like he was on the attack and he was going for something. It looked like Mados's, his Mercedes had a bit more pace to the team follow Mercedes of Peter Postle, but we'll find out, see if he will catch up with these two. I'm going to see what's going on with GT Racer and Hubris, because when I last looked at them, they were half a second away from each other. Then I looked back again, and then Hubris was 3 seconds away, and now he's back down to 2. So I don't know if he may have possibly pushed too hard on a corner and lost it a bit, now to play catch up.
Yeah, I don't think GT Racer had the run of the lapping the GT4 cars, because they had to get past two guys there in quick succession. So I think that's where that time was lost. But interestingly, got to the end of the lap, it's back up to 2.7 seconds again, which is where it was, I think, at the start of that lap.
So I was just wondering if there's some corners where they could both. There must be a corner at the beginning where GT Racer struggles compared to Hubris, but then later in the track, one where GT Racer doesn't has nailed a bit more than Hubris there, because like I say, it condensed and then stretched back out again over the course of a lap. So we'd only put it down to that for now. But on board with Mados, trying to catch up with the follow Mercedes. They come down Pilgrim's Drop now. Bit of onboard footage. I didn't think he was going to be joining us tonight, Mados. I did get signs from him that he wasn't going to be able to make it, but it's good to see him able to partake tonight. Seems to be slowly winding in, Peter Postle. I don't know, what do you think, Trevor? Is he making a bit more of a closing gap now?
I was thinking about that, and obviously Peter Postle had that issue coming out of Surtees, and I don't know how you find it. When you've had that, even a half a spin, amateur drivers like ourselves, you never seem to quite get back on it straight away, because it's just rattled you slightly that maybe you're just pushing the limit, and it maybe just takes you, oh, Mados has gone for the pits.
Yes, indeed.
That it just rattles you that little bit, doesn't it? And you just maybe take a lap to get back in the groove, and maybe that's what happened with Peter Postle, that once he got his, Mados had that a chance to attack, but because he didn't get the move done, Peter Postle got his sort of mojo back, and when we were in a lap was starting to pull away. Now, what it might be that Mados has considered it's a good chance to try and go for the undercut. So he's gone for the pits now.
Yeah.
Peter Postle may have some damage from that spin. So this may work in Mados's favour, that he comes out with a fresh set of tyres, admittedly heavier on fuel, but he's obviously sticking to the 340 minutes, working on the basis the track's not going to change in conditions.
I've not realised that Von Direc's also popped in as well. So they've both taken their first pit, both Von Direct and Mad. Oh dear, and oh dear, that's a spin for Stefanak, Michael Stefanak in the Audi there, coming down the hill through Pilgrim's drop there, and he just span out and went into the gravel. Let's see if I get back on board with him there as he's slowly starting to get back in. Yeah, yes, that's dropped him right to the back of the GT3 cars, even further back than Von der Recht, and he's already taken his first pit and at the back of the GT3 pack due to that. I'm right in thinking he was second though, wasn't he, Von der Recht?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Flash is. Michael Gallo. Why is Michael Gallo's dropped?
He's jumped into the pits. Everyone's starting to jump in now. Everyone's starting to
right.
dive in.
Got it. It didn't.
What, 40 minutes in? Yeah, 40-minute marker. They're diving in.
That's they're working on the basis, I imagine, that the weather's not going to change, and that it's going to continue wet like it is and into the dark. Because that's the other point we haven't made yet tonight, is that despite the fact this is a 2-hour race, the weather, also the time within the game is on a 20 or 12-hour acceleration, or 12 times acceleration. So we're going to end up with the race effectively being, over 12 hours, not 2. So we will go into the dark in the later part of the race. We've forgotten to mention that.
Oh yes, now we should do. I would have thought, well, I'm going to assume it's sort of British normal time, so if it's getting towards 6 o'clock when in game time, which is when this is supposed to end, it should be getting at least into some form of dusk or twilight, so see what happens there. So far the track temperature's not really changed too much from what it was. Currently on board riding with Flash J in first position due to pits being made by other drivers, so he's still got to make his first pit. And a good 11-second gap between him and GT Racer in second place. I wonder if there's a big enough gap between him and first place, who has jumped into the pits for now. Hold on.
See, what are those guys up front like Flash going to do? Because Michael Gallo is clearly quick, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
And he was, I think, like 10 seconds up the road. So if you're those guys like Flash, you think, well, I'm not going to catch him on track. I need to come up with something different. Yeah. So perhaps he's going to work on the basis of, trying to go for later stops or something like that, and possibly hope for a change in weather conditions, maybe. I'm just throwing a couple of things out there, that if it suddenly starts to dry up, say in the next sort of 20 minutes, suddenly a lot of these drivers are on the wrong tyres, where the ones haven't pitted, they've got the great advantage they can pit and not lose a stop.
Well, this is the fun gambling nature of racing when it comes to your actual strategy. What do you do? I have to admit, I would go on the law of average that it doesn't seem to be drying up, and just get another set of wets on there, get another fresh set on there, and then if it does start to dry out, I think everyone's then going to have to just jump in. I think it's one of those, you need to, everyone needs to sort of get in at the same time and get back out. You staying out for later, I don't know if it would help or hinder you, I'll be honest with you, Trevor. I'm going to stay on board with Michael here as everyone else is in the pits, and see if anyone gets out just before he comes past.
Well, as we were discussing about Flash and the Hubris, for example, staying out, they both come in. So the usual curse of the commentator, whatever we're talking about, doesn't happen. And GT Racers in as well, so they're all going for the 340-minute sprints in this race. So, and the other one that I've noticed is in the pits, but not really doing anything, like coming back out again, is Vaclav Pospisil. He's been in there, I think, for a good 5 minutes or so. So whether he's got damage or he's going to do the park it at actually, I've just realised he's done both his pit stops.
Oh yeah,
that's an oddball strategy.
Yeah.
And he's out again. I didn't realise that. He's done 2 pit stops in about 3 laps.
Oh.
So whether he did something, didn't set something up, or went out on slicks or something like that, I don't know. But you can see by the green bar by his name, by the number 34 there in 12th position, where all the other drivers have got orange bars with 1 or 2, which is reflecting the number of pit stops to go. He's got green, which means he's satisfied the pit stop requirement, so he's good to go to the end of the race. But an hour and 17 minutes on 1 set of tyres.
It's a risky thing. I don't know what has happened now. I don't know if he's accidentally jumped back in due to damage and then by chance taken that other pit. I don't know, but I can't see it working out for him in his favour. At the moment, though, I am watching Flash J, who had a 2-second, well, just about a 2-second gap between him and Gallo. Sorry, yeah, Michael Gallo.
Yeah, Michael Gallo.
Yeah, there was a 2-second gap. It's now increased to 2.8, possibly going up to 3 seconds here between first and second. So this might be the smallest gap between the first and second we've seen for pretty much most of this race at this moment in time. The rest of the time.
Oh, what wasn't Michael Gallo 10 seconds up the road from Flash before the pit stops?
He was indeed.
Oh no, he's up the road from Von Rassick. Well,
oh yeah, he
wasn't
was.
he? So Von Rassick has dropped to 3rd, and Flash has jumped up. Now, has Flash done not changed the tyres routine, just put some fuel in and to do a quick pit stop? Do you think? Because how on earth has he gained? He's now 16 seconds up the road from Von Rassick, who was 2nd.
I have to admit, I
so
don't know how he's done that.
He's gone for a different strategy there. That's the only way, because you can, if you don't change the tyres, you can just go in and splash some fuel in it, and the pit stop is a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what he's done.
Possibly
he's just
so.
gone in, done a splash, left the tyres on, just to give himself track position. And if he has done, that's a cracking job, because he's got himself just 3 seconds behind the leader now. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. We'll keep an eye on that one, I think.
I do wonder. This is why I have to admit, this is why I wish we had more telemetries to be able to see what's happening in pits and stuff like that. But alas, it is not real TV, so we can't do that. But yeah, real good strategy for Flash J there, what he's done. And I can see that we've got an Audi of the GT4 span out just after Sheen's there on the top corner as I watched the Mercedes and Porsche of GT Race and Hubris go past him. Who was that? I think that was Pospisil, who was on the gravel trap there.
Yeah, and he's on that right part of the circuit as well.
You know what? Peter Postel has
He's
finally
the
come
correct part of the circuit for that dude. Oh, Hubris and GT Race are at it again.
Yep. Currently on board as they now dive into Druids. Mercedes wrestling to keep the back end under control as he wants to get away from that Porsche as soon as possible.
I think this is going to be decided by who makes the least mistakes. I know I'm repeating myself, but I think that between these two, they just seem to make the odd little mistakes. And I think that's what's going to decide this, that one of them will make a mistake that will make a material difference, and that will be the end of it, I think. I might be wrong. Oh, Peter Postle's picked up a stop and go 30-second. I think that was for speeding in the pit lane. Just when you think your evening can't get any worse.
Oh, I know.
So that might bring Vaclav Pospisil back into it, because that's going to cost him a good, what, 45 seconds?
Ooh, yeah, sorry. I was just watching as GT Race has been really held up by Jures, but there's nothing he can do. Jures just taking a dive off through Sterling there to get out of the way of the battling fourth and fifth places, to apologise. And he's right up behind now. Hubris, literally, what, 200th of a second behind the Mercedes as they come past the start-finish line and up the hill. And Brown Paddocks. The Porsche looking for the inside line, but just too far away to be able to do anything. So Hampton stick back wide again. And it's going to be a slow game. Cat and mouse, half second in that here. And I think you're spot on here, Trevor, when you said that it's going to be down to who just makes that slight mistake. And it is normally the person who's got the pressure on from the car behind. At the moment in time, it's GT Racer. Beforehand, it was Hubris. We see both of them sort of crumble a little bit under the pressure from each other, haven't we?
They have, and I think I would be tempted to think about maybe a little bit of a different strategy. For example, because I think when they're racing like this, they are holding each other up a little bit. And if you get yourself in the clean air, you could get yourself into the sort of Skeletrix type of groove and get yourself some good lap times in. So maybe whoever pits first, the other one maybe wants to stick out for a bit and try and do that just to break it up, because they pitted very similar times, came out, and they're back in this battle again, which I don't think in their overall pace is helping them, break away one from the other, because I don't think it's going to affect them particularly in respect of being caught by other drivers. I think CV Dave is a little bit further back, but I think they just maybe need to try and find a different way to play this game out against each other, because they just said, oh, hello, yep. Was GT Racer a bit deep there? Yeah.
He did. He tried braking when two of his tyres were on that little bit of green of sort of sub-tarmac just to the side of the track there, and obviously that's soaking wet, so just did not have the stopping power he thought he had. So a little probably Co-Brown moment there. He's recovered from that, so very, very dodgy. While we are here, I've just realised that we've not actually given a shout out to anybody in the chat so far. So, good evening everyone, how are you all doing? Hi to SOP Milden, how you doing Ben? What's happened to you? Why aren't you here, young man? Hi Thomas, hi Andre, and hello everyone else in the chat, Figas, and the rest of you beautiful lot. Let us know what's going on. Give us a shout out if needs be. Trevor. My man Trevor. They are at it.
No, Hubris and GT.
You see
Hubris
what I'm
is
seeing?
all over the graph again. Oh!
Did he catch
contact?
Did he catch him?
I think they just touched very, very gently, but I think they did touch. But again, that's just where you get slightly missighted, and that Sheen corner is really difficult. It's one way, I don't know which line you take, but you're effectively almost braking on the wrong side of the track as you turn into it. As a right-hander, and you're braking on the right-hand side of the track because there's that little kink before it, isn't there? And you turn in blind because you can't see the apex, can you?
Oh no,
and
you can't.
You lob it in and just hope, and it's just so easy to drift wide on the exit because it's just trying to thread the eye of the needle. I know that's a bit sort of quiche, that kind of comment. Quiche? That's not the word. Quiche is something you have for dinner, isn't it?
Oh, I do like a quiche, I have to admit. Oh,
quiche.
Right, okay.
we were close. We're going down. Close, a bit like the racing. So, but it's so difficult, that corner, just to get it right, and the margin for error is just so slim, and you can just run wide on the exit and across that grass, and your back comes around and it fires you across the tarmac into that wall on the inside, doesn't it? And before you know it, you're dragging your semi-scrap race car back to the pits for repairs.
Yeah,
I've noticed a bit of a development. Sorry.
Oh no, go for it. Who have you noticed of development between?
Well, down in GT4 after the pit stops. Now, I don't quite know what caused the gap to grow, but we know K3 Miss and Harusa weren't that far apart.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's a 14-second gap. So that, I think, unless one of them had a bit of an incident we didn't spot, that they made some difference within the pit stops, whether it's the amount of fuel they took on or timing or repairs or something like that. It's made a difference very much between those two. They're still obviously on the same lap, and there's just 15 seconds between them, but they were running in sort of close 3 or 4 second company, and it's very much broken that little battle that was going on there for leading GT4 up.
Yeah, I have to admit, I can't remember seeing Harusa 2 with any form of damage. I know they were battling close together, but I didn't see anything with that. So far, the only one I've seen with a real good bit of damage from the GT4s was that Audi, who is now, I think, has he left? I think he left after his spin up.
Oh, somebody's left.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so that's the driver who did pit twice from the GT4 guys. I can't remember which name it was off the top of my head now because he's not in front of me. But he then span out.
I can pull up my data.
Go for it.
Yeah, but we've just dropped to 11, so we've lost. We've still got 4 GT4s, so it's a GT3 driver we've lost. So the top 3 are there: GT Race and Hubert.
I thought we had 5 GT4 cars.
We did, but we lost. Bear with me a second. Can I just put you on hold for a second? We lost or was it a GT3 driver we lost? Oh, we lost Thomas Menger, didn't we?
Yes.
Because he had that spin at the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend.
That's it.
We've now, you're correct. I had got it wrong. We have lost in GT4 Vaclav. The leader of the GT4 class in the championship is out. He's retired.
I'm going to assume that that's a DC there. Then he was doing really well.
Well, to be fair, he was at the back of the pack, I think, wasn't he? He was running 12, and he'd done that double pit stop routine, hadn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So whether that was a mistake and that wasn't going to work for him long term, and realised he needed the pit again, and he just called it a night, or possibly a disconnection. But the big winner in all of this is going to be Mados and Peter Posselt, because they're running 4th and 5th in that GT4 championship at the moment. And the points from that is going to bring them a lot closer to the front.
Oh yeah, instant points material. Nice and easy. Bread and butter, take that home, thank you very much. They are going to love that, that is for sure. Let's have a look here. See what's going on.
Oh, because that's the other thing. Thomas Menger, we hadn't spotted, had jumped from GT4 to GT3.
No, did he?
Yeah, he's moved into the Porsche. Yeah, he was in the BMW M4. That's why.
Oh, that's right.
I was
in the M4.
I was flailing around trying to work out what was going on.
Oh.
Now I realise.
I have to speak to the officials about that. I didn't know you could transfer from GT4 to GT3 midway through the league. But hey ho, it's entirely up to them, I guess.
Well,
their prerogative.
That would be a good way of quietly doing well in the GT4 class, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Keep your head down, say nothing, and basically change class of car, but just sort of keep your head down, say now, and then they think, God, he's got some pace in that car.
Yeah.
Especially if you pick one that's in both GT4 and GT3, and just hope nobody notices.
This is it. Just put a big sticker of 4 over where the 3 is on the car. Say, no, it's a GT4 car. Look, it says 4. It's got 4 here. No, it's not taped over anything, which says 3 underneath. It's 4. So simply get on and go from there. At the moment, K3 is ruling the GT4 league because he's got a massive gap on Hurus 2. 14, well, nearly 15 seconds between him and second place in the GT4. So he seems pretty tucked away in that Mercedes.
I wonder if he did the same thing that we believe Flash did and not have what we call a full pit stop with tyre change and so on to give himself a bit of breathing space. Because something definitely happened there between K3 Miss and Harusa to increase that gap. Unless one of them, unless Harusa had an on-track incident which we weren't party to, there must have been something happened for that gap to grow to 15 seconds. So I wonder if K3 Miss did something different in the pit stops. Maybe, didn't change the tyres but took fuel on board. Because these wets will last pretty well compared to the slick tyres, won't they? Particularly if you keep them cool.
Yeah.
This is it. You're talking of engines with different labels on. This is not a Brands Hatch story, but it's a quick story from my karting days. We had a case of exactly that. That I was, I don't know what the official role was, chairman or whatever of the kart club we raced at. We raced on an old airfield in East Anglia.
Oh yeah.
And we had a pro kart class with pro karts being the ones with the 2 little Honda generator engines, one each side.
Yeah. Quite
heavy thing. Very similar for anybody out there that's gone and done indoor karting. They're the kind of thing generally with one engine on that you'll find there. So these have 2, so a little bit more powerful, and they're 160cc engines. And the chap who was leading that, there was like a 10-round championship over the season. The chap who was leading that was, you know, he seemed to do, he was doing well. He was sort of winning most rounds, and quite often you get someone that's dominant, you don't think any more about it. But the giveaway was that one round he spun out and it was last, and in like 8 laps caught up the leaders and won. Which is, if anyone who's raced those indoor karts, you know that they're all very similar and there's not a lot between them. Well, this sort of perked my interest because he shouldn't be able to, you know, catch that amount of time up. So had a quick look at his car and discovered it's got 200cc engine. So he was sort of, he'd got sort of 25% more power.
Cheeky.
So anyway, so we had a quiet word of like, go home, put the right engines in it, and then come back and we'll let you race again.
Right.
So for the next 2 or 3 rounds went on fine. Then in the final, we suddenly thought he suddenly got a lot of pace back. What he didn't realise when I went and had a good look at the car was, yes, it had got 160cc on the engine casing where the pull start was, but what he hadn't spotted was that on the barrel it also cast what the engine capacity is. And what he'd done is put the 160cc casing on the 200cc engine.
No.
Yeah. And this is for like plastic trophies. This is like for plastic trophies on a Saturday afternoon. So anyway, after there was 2 or 3 races a day. It's a long time ago, and so we sort of pushed him aside and said, "Look, go home. You're not racing anymore. You are now taking the official mick."
Yeah.
So yeah, he didn't get his championship trophy because we, you know, yeah, it was all a bit of rule bending where you can and that kind of thing. But that was blatant. But it was the fact that he thought, oh, I'll put the 160cc engine covers on the end. And I said, no, look, it says 200cc on there. And he went, oh, rumbled. And that was the end of that, really. But yeah, it does, you know, when you get down to that level of cheating on things, you think, oh my God, is it really worth it?
He must have literally been holding off how fast he can go, apart from when it came to that situation of spinning out and went, oh, I want this place back, and then put hell for leather down and made himself really, really obvious.
Yeah. And that's the you've got me rolling now, Daxy. Stand clear. The stories are going to come thick and fast. Oh, we've just gone halfway in the race, just gone under the hour to go. So we're in this quiet spot because we're going to expect pit stops again in about 20 minutes.
Okay, just to say that Thomas Vonderek is getting quite close to Hubris. He's just under a second away. So I'm going to keep an eye on him while you tell us his tale.
So how did Thomas Vonderek end up behind GT Racer and Hubris?
I don't know. He's not having a good race of it from the sound of it.
Because he was second originally, wasn't he? So I'll hop on that battle. So I'll shut up. But my favourite Formula One car design is a car called the Brabham BT 46B. Now I'm sure you're familiar with that car, Daxy.
yeah, sure. I'm really.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Glad to.
Of course.
You've heard of ground effect cars?
Yes.
Back that were developed in the late 70s. Well, the Lotus were the great ones of that era of really harnessing that design to start with. And Gordon Murray, a well-known designer, came up with the McLaren F1. He at the time was working for Bernie Eccleston, who owned Brabham. And Bernie, being Bernie, had done a deal for Alfa Romeo flat 12 engines. Right. Now, for anybody with a basic knowledge of aerodynamics, the way the ground effect works is you've got an upside-down wing shape under the car, so it sucks the car to the road.
Yeah.
Now, the problem you've got is you can't have that big Ventura, like we can see on the back of the Bentleys on track. You can't get that big Ventura at the back if you've got a flat 12 engine with its cylinders sticking in the way.
Yeah.
So Gordon Murray being Gordon Murray, came up with a solution where he attached what he called a cooling fan to the back of the car, driven by the prop shaft.
Oh, I've heard
and
of
I think
these,
he said it was
the
like
fan
off
cars, and didn't it just suck it to the
That's it.
floor?
You've got it. And what they had to prove was that it was more. The rules said you could not have a movable item that was not. Oh, Hubis is off. Hubis is off at Clearways.
Oh, he has gone.
Von der Rex through into fourth.
I didn't even see him on the side.
Very
there.
tricky, that corner. Yeah, well, that's really broken up that battle between GT Racer and Hubis, isn't it? Because they were really close to each other. So Von Rassick is definitely trying to get his second place back there.
Trying to see.
So he's going to be after GT Racer next.
Ooh.
Oh, Von Rassick just completely sideways.
Hubris has come down to catch up with him.
There.
Let's see if he takes him. Oh, he does.
Oh, Hubis. Oh, and he's had to wait for Peter Postle to go through as well. And he's off again, but after Hubis made the mistake. Now, where Hubis was up against the barrier, I would imagine he's probably picked up a little bit of damage, whereas that spin by Von Rassick might have hit his pride a little bit, but I don't think it's actually damaged the car, so that might have an effect when we come round to the next set of pit stops. So, but going back to this fan car, so you could attach something that was moving as long as it wasn't predominantly for aerodynamics. Right. So Gordon Murray came up with this set of figures that proved it was predominantly for cooling, because they stuck a radiator on top of the engine and said it was sucking the air across it. But you're exactly right. This car turned up, and allegedly it had a dustbin lid over this fan because they didn't want anybody to see what they'd done. So they come qualifying, and this is what actually triggered me into this story. Come qualifying, they actually went out on full tanks because the thing was so fast. They didn't want to give away how quick it was because they knew people would get really excited and want it banned. So what they did, we went out and qualified on full tanks, and I think they still qualified like first and third. But as you say, it's in the pit lane. When you revved it, it went down and sucked itself to the track, which was a bit of a giveaway that something was going on. And so anyway, they set off in the race, and there was all sort of complaints that it was like a big Hoover.
Yeah.
And it was firing out, it was all the marbles and crap and all that on the track, it was sucking up and firing out of this fan at the back at the drivers behind. So they were making a big thing about it and so on. So anyway, they cleared off and won the race. But and this is me reading all these books on Formula One, I reckon Nicky Lauda got the hang of it better than I think who was John Watson was the other driver.
Sorry, just to say CV
Nicky Lauda
took a dive off from Clark's there at the back. Took a bit of a hit to the wall and is now just rejoining. It does look he's got a bit of damage there. That's not going to help his rebuild back into the GT3 stuff there. So sorry, can I let you carry on there, Trevor?
Oh, that's just dropped in behind Michael Stefanak.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael had that problem earlier, hadn't he? And he dropped back behind CV Dave, but that's given that position back now. So he'll be working his way back up. And yeah, Von Rassick we knew would drop back behind Hubis. So again, it's exactly as we were saying earlier. It's who makes the most mistakes. But the going back to this fan car, and I've only recently read about this, was that it was the driving technique was the problem, and what it was because it generated the most downforce when the engine was flat out. So what they had to do was drive into the corners like a gear down where they expected to be to keep the revs up, to keep the downforce at maximum. Because if they, as you know, you normally come up to a corner, let off the revs, go down the gears.
Yeah.
If you let the revs off, the downforce went away because the fan was going slower, and you fired off straight into the kitty litter. So you had to reprogram your brain to like go into the corner with your foot flat to the floor to generate maximum downforce.
Oh, dear God. That must have been absolutely
so,
terrifying. So, no, if I want to live, I need to go faster. I'll keep my foot down around this corner.
Exactly. Exactly that. And eventually the car, and Bernie Eccleston would always say that car was never banned. The other team members, and this is where, bear in mind, where Bernie was trying to get control of Formula One, basically I think they cornered him in the paddock and basically said, look Bernie, if we all have to redesign our cars like this, it's going to cost us a fortune. We can't afford it. If you want to take over Formula One and want our support, you need to lose that car. So he withdrew it, so the other guys would stay on board. Otherwise, it had been proved and tested legal by the FIA, and it could have continued racing. But because Bernie wanted to take over Formula One, the other guys got him in the corner and had a word, and that's why the car disappeared and wasn't used again. So it was never actually banned. It was only actually withdrawn by Bernie just so he could get his hands on Formula One, which obviously he did quite successfully.
Yeah. And that's how the
connection
started, I guess.
Well, that was how the ball was starting to roll then, and he was getting into battles with Balestra and the FIA and that kind of thing. But he didn't want that momentum to be stopped by all the other guys withdrawing their support for what he was trying to do. So, but the other car like that very quickly was that Lotus developed a car with I believe a Pratt & Whitney gas turbine engine rather than a normal petrol engine.
Right.
And again, that had the same problem because you know the 80s hot hatches with all their turbo lag.
Yeah.
This car was like turbo lag on acid, and apparently they ran out of drivers brave enough to drive it, because what you had to do was come up to a corner and absolutely put your foot down, because it would take 2 or 3 seconds for it to wind itself up enough to accelerate. So what you'd have to do is accelerate as you went into the corner, or hit the throttle as you went into the corner, which gave the turbine 2 or 3 seconds to get its sort of revolutions up, and then it would fire you out of the corner.
Oh,
because if you went round the corner and then put your foot down, you'd have to wait that 2 or 3 seconds for it to get going. So apparently it was scaring drivers like it was going out of fashion. So the concept was good, but unfortunately they couldn't find anybody brave enough to drive it.
It's one of those where they say, you know, you can fly planes so much better when you do it with a drone, because there isn't the G-force element which us humans can't handle. And I'm just slowly, at the moment, I'll be honest with you, Trevor, I'm just going through and doing little clips of different drivers at the moment on board, and Flash, who's just going past Peter Possel, breaking down through Paddock Hill. Not doing not too bad time. He's in the green for himself. See if we can make this the fastest lap. I might actually say who's done the fastest lap of the race so far. Let's have a look. I'm not sure we have that option. Do we have that option in this game?
I'm just having a quick look.
What should we do?
I'm just looking just in case mine kills over. No, I'm not set. I've got total race time, but I just, unless I click on there. No, I haven't at the moment, I'm afraid. No, we don't appear to have that. And in fact, rather frighteningly than that, I've actually lost. Oh, there we go. I've got all the. I'd lost half the drivers there, which was slightly frightening. But no, we haven't got. Haven't got that. I'm just. Oh, hang on. Let's just have a look at race 1. No. No, we've got the current times, but I haven't actually got lap times on that one, so I can't help you with that one, I'm afraid. So, but to wind ourselves back, if we all think we're fairly settled and looking around the track, it all looks fairly settled at the moment. The other, just to do some quick Brands Hatch related stuff.
Go for it.
Great careers have started here. People such as the legend that we lost relatively recently, Murray Walker. He was doing grass track round here.
What, with his,
I think it might have even been before the war.
Is this when he was back in the day when he was trying to do the motorcycle racing like his old man?
Yeah, because his old man was like, I think, a Norton Works rider at the TT.
Oh, so he was an old Works rider, was he? Was he?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Graham Walker was a rider of much note, and Murray had raced here, I think, when it was still a grass track rather than an actual tarmac one. But this is around the era where he decided he was better off in the commentary box than what he was on the bike. As much as he wanted to emulate his father, he realised he hadn't got that skill set. So Murray Walker raced here, and then later on, the raconteur and racer that was Graham Hill, his career started here, and that was where I think, and I'll get this wrong in old money, but something like £2, you could go along and have 3 laps in a Formula 3 car of the day. Now, a Formula 3 car of that day had like a 500cc motorcycle engine in the back, and you could come along the Brands Hatch, pay your money, and do 3 or 4 laps, or 10 laps, or something like that.
Right, Trevor.
And he go.
I'm gonna leave you for 2 seconds. I'm getting nippy, and I need to put a jumper on. So bear with me 2 seconds. I'm gonna leave you in control.
Okay, I will cheerfully bore everybody out there with my story. So, and Graham Hill came along and paid his money, did his laps, and decided I quite like this. So anyway, he got involved in doing some mechanicking for drivers, and then getting the chance to race on the back of it. And then one day when he was at Brands Hatch, he needed the lift back to London, and there was a guy with a truck and another guy in there that were happy to give him a lift back. And as they were going along, he discovered this guy that's given him a lift was not the one and only Colin Chapman, who was the owner, founder and creator of Lotus Cars. And the other guy in the truck was Jim Clark. And from that, Graham got a job, I believe, at Lotus, and then eventually got a job driving the cars, and eventually became world champion. And the other thing with the Hill family is this is where Damon Hill won many races on a motorcycle.
Oh, he was a motorcycle
racer, I think he won. He was a motorcycle racer before he was a car racer. And he won, I think he was something called the King of Brands, which was like a 250 or 350cc class race.
All right.
And then his mum decided that bike racing was a bit dangerous, so got him some car race driving lessons, and that's how he gradually moved his way through, Formula 3, Formula 3000, eventually into Formula 1, because Damon Hill didn't take the normal route through sort of kart racing and that to get into Formula 1.
So is Damon Graham...
So that's somebody else.
So is Damon Graham Hill's son or Graham Hill's father?
Yes. Damon Hill is Graham Hill's son, because Graham Hill was killed in a plane crash on a private plane he was flying back in, I think, 1975.
Oh, right.
Just in somewhere in North London, coming in with he had his own, he'd given up driving and was starting to create he created his own Formula 1 team, and his promising driver, I think it was Tony Bryce, was on the plane with him, and they were all killed because what it turned out was his plane was out of effective aeroplane MOT. So when all the families of the people that were killed in it, they went after the Hill estate for compensation, etc., for everything. So all the assets he built up, unfortunately, and he wasn't properly insured, etc., etc. So when it came to Damon, he certainly wasn't a second generation, like a Mick Schumacher or a Max Verstappen, where there was the money there to fund a career. That his mum had to pay it, very gently as she went along for these race lessons. So there was. Damon very much had to work very hard to get the experience and fight his way through on his own merit, rather than actually sort of just being handed it because there was finance in the family, which I thought was quite interesting.
You educate me every time we come on do commentate, Trevor. Every time there's something you teach me every single time. I'm ever grateful for you for it, 'cause I did not know any of this.
Oh, I could go on forever. And it's just when I watch races and I say, oh, well, that happened back in 1972.
And we're currently watching GT Racing, trying to get past the back marker of Peter Postle there. He's managed to get around, and Peter's sort of just dived out of the way, thankfully, and he's catching back up. And he's going to be lapping CV Dave soon, but I just thought we'd get it on, as there's going to be a bit of action there as these two GT3s. The Mercedes does seem to have the better pace than that Porsche at the moment, especially after that Porsche took that damage from that hit in the wall. I don't think he's pitted since then, so that's it'll be soon to catch him.
Sorry to cut across you, but we've lost Michael Gallo, who was leading.
We've lost. What is going on tonight? What's going on with our leaders?
I don't know. Well, I was waffling away and I hadn't noticed, but I was suddenly going, hang on, we're down to 10 rather than 11.
Down to 10.
And the missing one is Michael Gallo.
We're down to 10. There's still pits to go. So I'm guessing that's a DC there from Paul Gallo. Unfortunately, that would have been some brilliant points for his first race as well. So shame on that. Hopefully we'll see him again for further races to come. But that puts GT Racer up into second and Flash up into first. So.
And Flash is the one third in the championship with the first two guys not in the race tonight. That is going to jump him 5 points in front of Ben Milden, I think. So I think he's going to, if he's going to hang on to this lead, I think he's going to get himself into the front of the championship. So that's going to turn the championship on its head. And the other one that's going to score well here is Hubis, who is fifth.
Indeed it is. And our guy has done it again. Bondarek has jumped into the pits. I don't know if he heard us say that first place has disappeared from there. He's dived into the pits and got that done early, seeing if he can maybe make a cheeky manoeuvre and get better times leading up to this third and final section of this race after the second pit, that is. See if he can leapfrog those three in front of him at all. Try and jump into a podium spot.
The other thing I've noticed is the track conditions have worsened because it's now classed as wet rather than damp, which it has been up until recently. So, GT Racer running wide there at Westfield, but he's kept it together and kept it on the track. But you can see the reflections of the lights as we're starting to head towards the dark in the track now. So there's definitely a wet sheen to that track, which there wasn't there earlier.
And Bondarek is coming up to Stefanak, and Stefanak is diving in. So there's one place taken by Bondarek with his pit tactic already. He's taken that spot back into fourth position. He is 32 seconds behind Flash, who is in first place here. So this actually could be quite good for him if he keeps up the consecutive lap times or goes faster. He might actually do real good little pit strategy here. So keep an eye on him with things to come, as others seem to be diving into the pits at this moment in time. Who else is in the pits at the moment? We've got Stefaniak, and Hubris has now dived in as well. Is GT Racer going to do the same? No, he's not got to the back. He's still going around the back straight yet. He may do. He has got the opportunity to.
Well, I think the other one, if you remember from the first round of pit stops, Flash, we think had a short stop because he jumped himself from third to second, didn't he?
Yes.
And then and made that jump in time. So I wonder if he's going to be a bit slower on this pit stop because he's going to have to change tyres, which I've got a deep suspicion that he didn't do first time. I might be wrong, but I don't. Oh, Michael Stefanak just coming out there. And the other one is K3 Misk, because he also got that big gap over Harusa, and we wonder if he'd done the same thing. So the other guy, the Harusa and Mados behind him, have already pitted in GT4 class, but he's yet to pit. So he's just gone under the 40 minutes, which is the ideal for splitting the race into 3 sections with a pit stop every 40 minutes. So I wonder if he's going to hang out there for a bit longer, or whether he's going to just get in and get it over with.
Possibly. See what happens as we're on board with Flash at the moment.
I've got to say, the onboard shot, it looks drier in the car than what it looks outside. From outside, it looks a lot wetter.
It does, doesn't it? Onboard footage doesn't show the track as wet as what it seems like, at least on the telemetry. Doesn't. Oh no, it is still raining.
Oh, we've lost somebody else.
Have we?
We're down to 9. We're down to 9. We've just lost somebody else.
Someone else from the
Flash,
GT3s, I think.
Yeah, just bear with me. I'll pull up my. Who have we lost there? CV Dane. We lost Gallo. Or are we down to 9 already? I can't remember. I'll get myself confused. Hang on a second. Let me just check.
Is it front? I think it was the Honda track. The Audi. Who's
Stefanak's gone.
Yep, that's the one. In the Audi, he's lost. He's left.
Yeah,
us, so it's now only 5 GT3s and 4 GT4s left. of this race.
And it's getting dark.
And it's getting dark.
And it's getting dark. We're gonna need another F1 story in a minute. I'm sure I can find one.
Well,
give me a subject, I'll come up with it.
Just being aware that. Oh no! Oh, I was going to say we're just being very aware that Vonderek is catching Hubris quite quickly, and he's then just lost it. And his back end steps out, coming down over the Paddock Hill. Why is my corner name's just left me? Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, he's just lost it there, and he's now got to play catch up again. See if we can get that time all built back up.
But yeah, it's getting dark as well, which there's always that challenge of trying to find your turning point, your apexes and so on. So yeah, we've got probably, it's still only just getting dark at the moment, so it's going to be a good 30 minutes where it's going to be properly dark, because this isn't one of these modern F1 Singapore kind of circuits with all these street lights around it. These guys have got headlights and have got to find their way through the dark.
Well, this is it.
So CV Day's just on for the pits. So I think that's going to be his best result of the season. I know he's technically last of the runners, but he was 7th in the first round and 6th in the second round. So yeah, that's going to be his best finish if he keeps that one going. And the other one, just K3 Misk has pitted, but he's still got quite a significant lead on Harusa. He's got probably, I think he had something like 15 seconds before. He's got the length of Pilgrim's Drop as a gap. So yeah, I think he's fairly safe out front at the moment. And then Mados in third is not. Where's Mados? Yeah, Mados looks like he's going to get lapped, I think, by. Yeah, look, Mados looks like he's going to get lapped, and so's Peter Postle. I think Mados and Peter Postle are together on track, but I think they're actually a lap apart.
I think that's
so.
I think
yes,
you're right there. Yeah, no, I've been watching Mr. Postle for the past few minutes here, seeing if he's slowly catching up with Mados, who, like you say, is in front of him. But I say this now, but my telemetry is now showing Peter Postle being 9th and Mados being 8th. So I don't know if something's
but I think that's correct. Yeah, just looking. Well, that is something we can get off the telemetry, and yeah, Mados is on 49 laps and Peter Postle's on 48 laps.
Oh, I see.
So yes, that is correct. So even though Peter Postle is catching him, he's only going to unlap himself to get himself on the same lap as Mados in front of him.
Oh right, I see. And let's be fair, with 35 minutes to go, you'd have to do a you'd have to unfortunately wish some ill will on Mados, and also perform some amazing feats of driving to be able to unlap and then still get that lap back and fight back for that position within less than 35 minutes now. So
yeah, if you're still with Mados as they're going around that Sheen curve, that is for me the most difficult corner on the track, because you just turn in there, you just can't see the apex, can you? You just have to hope you've turned into the right point with the right angle, and you clip the apex, and you just don't run too wide on the exit, which is just so easy to do. And that barrier, it will spin you around and just fire you straight onto the barrier where there's on the inside where there's just no runoff at all. And it just put a big hole in your race for the evening, then, won't it?
Indeed, and it is. I tell you what, I'm on board with Mr. Postle at the moment as he's getting right up behind Mados, and from the onboard camera, Trevor, it actually does now starting to look very wet on that track. It's looked wetter than it has done all evening. I don't know if it's just the fact that we've now got the headlights to give the reflection and sort of enhance that wet feeling, but it didn't seem that wet on track beforehand. It seems definitely got more water surface across this track, that's for sure. So he's really close up behind him now, comes into Drew's drop. But I don't think he's going to have the pace to be able to do anything around these next few corners. And he's a brave man if he does. Some people do. Some people will try and take that inside line up towards Sheens to try and bully that inside line, and you know they're going to give way to on the outside because he'll get pushed into the gravel. So I don't know if he's going to try that, but no, he's not close enough at this moment in time. He's going to have to just stay put and see if he can build it. What were you going to say, my man?
I just wonder if Mados realises that Peter Postle's a lap behind him, because I'd be tempted to let him go, because rather than have him behind you and possibly taking a lunge and having a problem with both of you, I'd look at it with respect that he's a lap behind. I'd let him go and give him a gap of 3 or 4 seconds and just poodle around it. After all, this is an endurance race, not a sprint race. I think Mados seems to be driving like Peter Postle is racing for position, which in reality he isn't, because like I say, he could let him by and just not invite that accident that potentially could happen and spoil both their races.
Yeah,
maybe I'm too cautious.
No, I think you're spot on. I don't know if you can tell, because like you say, looking at the telemetry as it is now, if you look down there, unless when he looks at that, Peter Postle's possibly in a different colour to him. I don't know if we get on board actually with Mados instead, see if it gives a different reading to him on his stuff. Let's look through his rear spoiler as he sees Peter Postle chasing down. You're right, he does. On his, he's got a blue colour on there, so it does show that he's a lap behind. So at the moment, he doesn't need to fret too much. I don't know. To me, he doesn't seem too fussed or phased by Peter behind him at this moment in time, at least.
No, but he just suddenly he outbrakes himself, or yeah, this is Peter Postle I'm talking about. Suddenly outbrakes himself or whatever and makes a mistake, and then all of a sudden you've got an incident which neither of them really need to have. So I say maybe I'm just a little bit too cautious, but after all, it's an endurance race. We've got just over 30 minutes left. You want to let them, you've got to get to the end to get your points. So it's not really going to make a major difference there to let him by. And talking the major differences, I've just hopped on board with Flash up front, and he's a good half lap in front of GT Racer. Now that's been helped by obviously Mikko Gallo dropping out and so on.
Ooh.
But Flash has got this one very much in the bag, I think.
Peter's tried to do it. He's dived down the inside through Druids, just managed to avoid Mados clipping the back of him, and he's made it, held it. He's made it and he's held it, and then now down through around Graham Hill Bend, and Peter Postle has unlapped himself from Mados. So, like you say, hopefully a bit of a respite for him there in regards to that, as he has got now K3 coming up behind him. But again, that's going to be another lapping procedure, so he's then going to be the blue flag car to K3, and those two carry on. I'm going to see what else there is to look at round this track. Who else can you recommend viewing at the moment? I can see number 7, Van der Lech is going to catch up with at least some back markers. Let's jump on board with him.
Oh, well, the only thing I've just noticed that 3 of the 4 GT4 cars are all in the same spot of the track. They've got 2.6 miles of tarmac, and they're using about 0.2 of a mile of it between them.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these things sometimes sort of shuffle together as a pack, and there are 3 cars that are all on different laps. But the sun very much has set here at Brands Hatch tonight, isn't it? So they're now relying just on those headlights. And these guys, I know it's not Formula 1 levels of energy regarding G-forces and so on, but they've still been driving in their rigs for an hour and a half now, plus obviously qualifying and free practice before. So a bit of fatigue may well be coming into it. Just a mistake, you miss your braking point and so on, and the price you pay, particularly in these damp conditions, can be much bigger, can't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I very much think, like you say, yeah, they don't have the physical, I suppose, the physical fatigue that they have to put up with, but there's still, like you say, very much the fact that they're going to have the fatigue of the mind, because you're going to be still concentrating just as much. If anything, you're going to be concentrating more to try and make sure you're not pushing or over pushing your driving technique. You're keeping within your limits. You're trying to do your fastest time, and in the wet as well. So concentration, I reckon these guys, they're still going to be sat there absolutely dripping in their rigs, trying to make sure they're doing as fast as laps as possible. the moment.
Yeah, I think you're 100.
Yeah, no, no, you know, I was only just going to say that Van der Eck is slowly, very slowly closing down that gap between him and Hubris in third. So it's going from 3.5 to about 3 seconds now. I wonder if it will close down any more.
Well, we're getting into these closing stages of the race, and I think that's the only one I can see really developing. And we know Van der Eck had pace earlier on because he was running up there in second, wasn't he? And he was ahead of Flash. So he's certainly got pace in that car. It's whether he can bring it to bear in these remaining sort of 27.5 minutes to close that gap to Hubis.
Indeed, it's a shame that he sort of went, well, from what it seemed, he went off the boil, or his race went off the boil at least within the sort of second quarter of this race, and didn't really start pulling it back together to the third quarter. Now we're just in the fourth quarter, and he's back on what seems good form now, catching back up and put some good lap times in. So let's see what he can do. Hubris, not a bad driver himself, you know, really good in that Porsche tonight, really making it stick, especially in the rain. You have to give him a lot of credit. That Bentley's going to be a lot easier to drive in the wet than that Porsche, or at least a lot less skittish would be the word I'd put.
And he was so out there with GT Racer, wasn't he? And they had that long battle, but just it was ultimately down to whoever made the most mistakes. And I think unfortunately that was Hubis. But now he's getting caught in the back markers as well through Mados, and I'm assuming that's Peter Possel is actually clearing away from K3 Miss, who is leading the GT4 category.
Oh.
So let me just he's obviously trying to, let's have a quick look. Yeah, so Peter Possel is still in front of K3 Miss, and he didn't have pace earlier on. Hubis is getting quite excited with these flashing light button behind K3 Miss.
Yeah, I can see just over
K3 Miss. Yeah, K3 Miss decided, right, I've got my line, you work your way around it.
Yeah.
And the sort of consequence of that is he seems to have still, you know, fallen back from Peter Possel, who very much certainly got the pace later in this race. Just unfortunately had a couple of incidents earlier on in the race, and that sort of dropped him that lap. So, you know, the different laps these GT4 guys on is unfortunately holding back the battle's development. Sorry, go Daxi.
No, it's nothing. I was just watching Hubris going round Graham Hill bend there, and had a slight little twitch from the back end now. That was what made me go ooh, because it made me think all squeaky bum time. See what happens here. And you know what, after all of that, Thomas Van der Eck did not make up as much time through those as he could do through those back markers as Hubris has done. He's he's cut half a second down, so it's now 2.5 seconds between the two, ever increasing back up to 3. It is. I can't see him in any of the shots from we can't even see him in the rear view. Chris Bullock, we just can. He's just come round Stirling corner there.
I'm watching these onboard shots you're running at the moment, and it's just the margin for error is just so slim, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's when you're trying to pick it out. When you're seeing the trackside cameras, it gives you the idea it's almost like dusk and there's quite a lot you can still see. Whereas when you go with that onboard, you've just got those two headlights, and obviously you know where the track goes, but you can see where, you can imagine where in real life endurance racing, where the fatigue comes in the middle of the night with, like, you know, these 24 hours at Silverstone or Le Mans and that kind of thing. That, you know, you can imagine when that fatigue comes in, you just got to make that one little mistake, and you can't really see exactly where you are when it's starting to go wrong. If you got it right, you're okay because you know where the braking points are and so on. But you do get that challenge when, you know, you've missed the braking point and suddenly go, oh, where's the track go? And boom, all of a sudden you're spinning around and collecting the barrier, and you've spoiled your whole event then. So
I've got
let's have a look. Can we
watching
see
Thomas Van der Eck, as I'm watching him now, trying to see if I picked the right camera angle.
Oh, he's got it down to 2.2, isn't he?
Yeah, he has. Oh no!
Oh, hello. That looks like a disconnect.
Oh no, we may have got a server error here. Don't know what's everyone else doing. Everyone else seems to be okay. That might be a DC then.
But we've lost him. He's gone.
We've got a DC. Now,
so CV Dave's up to 4th.
This is it. Automatically catapulted up into 4th there, so camera just got shunted onto him. So for now, it is very much a remainder of the pack. I'm gonna say that our guy Mados, who hosts this from Eracing, who's driving with us tonight, he did tell me that he may not race tonight for the sheer fact that the weather where they are is just
Czech Republic.
In the Czech Republic, sorry, is absolutely horrendous, and they are, because of that, they are very prone to then blackouts and all short tails there. So I don't know if maybe internet dropouts are happening due to that, and it could be that what's going on there. So not sure. I'm going to jump on board with CV Dave, as he has now got 2 back markers of K3 and Peter Postle to get through, and see how he gets on with those.
Well, just where he's going through there down Pilgrim's Drop, that F1 driver Johnny Herbert, that I'm sure everybody will remember, and he's now a commentator, interviewer on Sky F1 programs from our home area of the country. He was an Essex boy, and he had a massive accident at that Pilgrim's Drop section when he was in Formula 3000, and it was one a bit like the Billy Whiz accident that some of you may be aware of, where that young lad in Formula 4 lost his legs following an accident at Donington Park. And this was a similar thing with Johnny Herbert, where there were a couple of cars got mixed up and he got fired off into the barrier, and you see the horrendous pictures of him sat in the car there with his feet sticking out the bottom and his feet sticking out at angles where they shouldn't really. And so, but at that point he'd already signed a contract with Benetton for, I think, about 1989 off the top of my head, and it was very much, oh no, he's going to be fine. And as you would, it would have been his first season in Formula 1, so he was going to say, yeah, I'll be fine. And he did get to the first race in Brazil, but he was still on crutches, and they sort of had to lift him in the car, which you just can't imagine these things happening nowadays. And he set off in the first race, and I think he was something like 4th in the very first race, despite the fact he couldn't actually walk. But this turned out to be a bit of a honeymoon, and the results didn't come for the sort of the races afterwards. And then at this point, Benetton brought in a new manager, a guy that many of you will be familiar with, called Flavio Briatore, who was famous and infamous in equal measures, I think. And he came along, and one of his first questions was, why can't one of our drivers walk properly? Which at that point, Johnny realised possibly his days with Benetton might be a little bit numbered, and ultimately they were. I think he got replaced halfway through the season. But as we know, Johnny went on, made a proper recovery from those injuries, and actually went back to Benetton later on, and for Lotus, and for Stewart, and for Jaguar, and won, I believe, 3 races. Mainly when Michael Schumacher got rammed off the track by Damon Hill. So whether Damon was on a share of things there or not, I don't know. But yeah, that was. CV Dave's got it all sideways down at Graham Hill. No, he's caught it. Nice catch.
I was about to say, Jay Flash here took it a bit quick round Sheens, and got spit into the gravel and then came back on, but because he's just so far in the lead from second, he's got no problem. He is now having to make his way back through those 2 back markers. I was just watching him go through again. Come down Pilgrim's Drop. Who's just ahead of him then? CV Dave, 6 seconds.
Yeah. But this is where Flash, with less than 20 minutes to go, who just needs to settle it down. The track conditions have stabilised at wet, but there's still a chance of making that mistake. And he's just going through Sheens, and GT Racer is only just coming out of Graham Hill Bend, so he has a massive gap, probably somewhere around about 40 seconds. So from his point of view, he just, with that amount of time left, that's probably about 11 laps left. So he could be, what, 3 seconds a lap slower and still be happily in front. So he needs to bank these points. He's got a great opportunity with the absence of Ben Milden and Preset tonight.
Yeah, and he's
so I don't
think you want. Sorry, I just saw him go around paddock and he was pushing it hard. The back end wants to go on that Audi. I don't know if he's got wear on it or the setup's just not right for maybe when it's getting super slippery like this, because when he pushes it down paddock, his back end, or actually through some of these corners here, his back end just seems really, really twitchy.
Looking through, the only potential battle, and this is sort of reliant on someone having a mistake, i.e. GT Racer, is Hubis is just 10 seconds back down the road at the moment. So that's the only thing I could see developing, is GT Racer makes a mistake and Hubis is going to be all over him. So 10 seconds, as we've seen, can be lost very easily in this race tonight. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see whether GT Racer keeps it between the lines, and we know both of them have been prone to the odd little mistake, haven't they?
Indeed they have. So I've now jumped on board with GT Racer. Loving the on-board work, I have to admit. This is the first time I've really seen her at night in the wet with the commentary cam. And I have to admit, I don't know if you guys like it as much as I am, but you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. If you turned this on the TV at the moment, you'd think it was actual real. It looks that good.
Oh, just looking at the chat, Von der Rassic said he had a blue screen.
Oh no.
Which is why he disconnected. But also I think we may have had a name change here that we haven't been told about. Because, and Thomas, if you're still leading, I'm sure you're about to clear this one up.
Thomas
Von Rassic is actually Preset.
Yeah. God,
so that disconnection's been really. Yeah. Well, right. and that disconnect is going to be really costly for him tonight, because with him being second and really close behind Milden, that would have given him a good jump over Ben Milden there. So that's really been costly for him.
Well, in that case, you know what? I wasn't watching it with the sort of look of I'm watching Preset at this point. I for some silly reason just put it down to a whole new driver, and it's odd because in that case he wasn't. I love the guy to pieces, but it didn't seem like he was having the best night compared to some of the other times I've seen him drive.
No, he's been particularly. I remember at Nürburgring, he gave Ben Milden a really hard time, didn't he, through that race?
Yeah.
Admittedly, he hadn't quite got the pace, but he was certainly there or thereabouts. So he was not, as you say, having the best race of it tonight, but it was still been points in the bank. So, as we know from lots of race series, whether they're car or bikes, you don't tend to win the championship in one race. You win it over the season, and that's where it's so important to bank those points as we go through the year. And we're seeing that for those of you out there that watch MotoGP. We're seeing it very much this year with Fabio Quartararo in the MotoGP class. That last year he lost it because he was trying to win every race and kept having accidents. But this year, you can see in his demeanour, he's happy to settle for second and thirds. He's leading the championship already, and he knows it's better to finish second or third than to finish in the gravel trap. So, yeah, it's all about the long haul to get these championship wins, and this could be quite expensive for Preset tonight, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately so. It's going to be a shame. So many, unfortunately, have dropped off or had blue screens or disconnects. It's a bit of war of attrition. So for the last 8 that we have left, whittled down from, how many did we have to start off with? 13?
12.
12 to start off with. Down.
The 13. The 13 was because you tried to enter the race taxi.
Yeah, I know. I still wouldn't have done very well. Even down to, I still would have been in 8th position now.
Do you know one of those oddball one-day events that have ever happened at this place at Brands Hatch?
What's that?
I'll take you back to 1994. You were probably at secondary school then, weren't you? Or
yes,
primary school?
Yes, I think I was secondary or about to go into primary. I mean, primary just about to go into secondary probably.
Well, when the year we lost the great Ayrton Senna, to improve the PR of Formula One, they brought in the famous one-man publicity machine, which was Nigel Mansell, and they brought him back to drive for Williams for 3 races, and they decided to, when the days of F1 when testing was a lot, when practice was a lot looser, that they decided, oh, we'll hire Brands Hatch for the day so he can do a few laps in the car. And so long ago, Nigel turns up with a truck full of cars and mechanics and so on. It was on like a Wednesday. It was a completely unannounced event. There was no tickets or anything like that. And I think somewhere around about 15,000 people turned up just to watch Nigel Mansell do some practice laps in the Williams. And as Nigel said himself, he got a microphone to thank everybody for coming. He says, "But shouldn't you all be at work?" The sickness rate on that day must have been horrific on the southeast of England. But there was just, the grandstands were just heaving with these people that have skived off work to see, Nigel Mansell. And then he came back for those 3 races. I think it was the French something else and the Australian Grand Prix. And he did actually win the Australian Grand Prix when Michael Schumacher fired into Damon Hill and broke his suspension, and Schumacher walked away with the championship, and Mansell walked away with the race. And I think it was one of the oldest podiums ever, and someone out there in YouTube land will correct me, that there was Mansell, Berger and Brundle, who were all towards the end of their career. So at that point Mansell was already in his 40s, so I think it was one of the oldest podiums ever in Formula 1. Oh, we've lost somebody in that chatter. Who have we lost? Flash. We've lost GT Racer. He was up the second. CB Davies on the podium. He's on the podium. CB Dave.
This is literally a war of attrition. 10 minutes left. We've got 7 races. Can we lose any more? Will it just be me and Trevor chatting by the end of the race? It could well be. We don't know.
I've got an option here. I've got the drive option. I could actually enter the race and start from the pit lane.
And you know what? You'd come at least 8th. That's the thing. You'd come at least 8th, even if you started now. Oh dear. What a night.
I'm tempted. I wouldn't want to spoil it for these guys, but it's a great temptation to dive out there and have a go.
Indeed. I'm just flicking through everyone, so they're all getting a bit of camera time.
Yeah, do it quickly. Do it quickly before we lose anybody else.
I know. Literally, the last person I looked at was CV Dave, then changed it to a GT4 drive, and then you said you lost him. I was like, oh, what, GT? No, can't be. I've just watched him a second ago. No, he's gone. So, bless him. Lost another one.
I think we're on to possibly, hopefully we're not going to be as bad. I think the worst ever Formula 1 number of races running was the 96 Monaco Grand Prix. That one that Olivier Panis won, completely out of surprise in the rain and everything. I think there was only 4 running at the finish. So we're still ahead of that at the moment. So hang in there, guys. You've got just 9 minutes left. Stick with it and we'll be all right.
Oh, he's just managed to catch that. Sorry, Hubris. Doing a bit of a Tokyo drift. down round. Why can't I remember that? Why are my track corners gone for me tonight, Trevor?
Druids.
No, first corner.
Druid, Graham Hill, Paddock Hill.
Paddock Hill. I don't know why. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Along with drivers, I've decided to lose my memory. So it's all going to. Everything's just disappearing tonight, Trevor. Everything's just disappearing.
It's all disappearing. I'm starting to run out of stories. I'm trying to think.
No, this can't happen. We can't run out of stories.
You know, I can always come up with something. So I've talked about Damon Hill. I've talked about Carl Fogarty and Mansell's test days. People, you know, younger chaps like yourself may not remember this was actually at one time a Formula One circuit up until 1986. And from the 60s, I think, through to 86, they shared the race with Silverstone. It was 1 year it was Silverstone, 1 year it was at Brands Hatch. But as the circuits evolved and changed and runoff areas got bigger and so on, it then went in the favour of Silverstone because that was the more modern of the two circuits. Because you can see that they have improved the runoff in certain areas here, but it's certainly not what you would expect to see in the modern Formula One tracks.
No.
But saying that, around about 2000, Brands Hatch actually, I think, took the contract to host the Formula One, which is another one of good old Bernie Ecclestone's winding up Silverstone antics. But they had come up with this sort of package of what they were going to do, and there were plans drawn up where I'm not sure who you're on board with at the moment.
I'm on board with Hubris, and I think I know what you're talking about, where we go down, as we come down now towards the
Pilgrim Drop.
Pilgrim Drop, they were going to put a chicane down here, am I right in thinking?
Well, no, they actually make that the start-finish straight, and where they're going around Hawthorns now was going to be the first corner.
Oh.
So they were going to make that the longer straight, because you look at the track plan and bottom corner, the start-finish straight at Brands Hatch isn't really straight, but they were going to use that as and make that as a start-finish straight. But again, it was one of these deals where there wasn't actually an awful lot of money behind it to be able to do it. And I think it ended up being one of these bizarre things where Brands Hatch actually held the rights to the race, but then they licensed it to Silverstone and they held it at the Northamptonshire track. So, and then after 2 or 3 years, the deal fell apart. And then, as some of you may know, a few years later, Bernie then did a deal with a guy that can only be described as a charlatan to then take the race to Donington Park. And again, that was a guy that hadn't got any money. He took a massive long lease from the owners of Donington Track, promptly dug big holes in it and run out of money and paid very little of the lease payments that he had.
Oh, Lordy.
So, and then that deal fell through, and then eventually they've now got obviously a sensible long-term deal with Formula One, which is why they've invested at Silverstone and built all these new buildings.
Oh, right. I didn't realise.
Which, if you go to Silverstone now, it's a fantastic setup there. They've improved the road access to it. There's dual carriageways right up to the side of the circuit. The new wing building for the pits is brilliant, and the grandstands and all that all the way around. And they've just built, I believe, a hotel on the main straight.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Quite cool.
And there's also a museum there now as well. So yeah, there's an awful lot of facilities there, and they do put on some fantastic events. I've been there for MotoGP and for the Silverstone Classic, and they put bands on, and the most bizarre night was that great 80s rock star or pop star that you wouldn't have remembered first time round, Rick Astley, was actually live on stage there for one of the MotoGP. That's it.
Sorry.
Carry on if it makes you happy. And we got, and I think Rick actually, before he had his sort of comeback 3 or 4 years ago, where he suddenly became very popular again, I think they booked him for it straight before that he'd really sort of got going, and it was just to promote his new album. And even he admitted, he said, "I'm finding this quite bizarre that I'm in the middle of a race circuit with a bunch of drunk bikers all dancing around to my old songs. This is ridiculous." And everybody just went, "Yay, more!" It was absolutely bizarre.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's but they do put on some, the motorsport. I first went to the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in 1987, and it cost me the grand sum of £10 to get in, because we found a side gate where the guy and the security guards were all a bit
all right.
And it was like, because we've gone up to the main, I think it was like 25 quid or something to get in there. There was an impoverished biker teenager. I didn't have the money, and we were wandering along with our, crash helmets outside the track, trying to work out what to do. And this guy said, "Oh, do you want to get in on the cheap?" We went, "Maybe." So yeah, we slipped in for a tenner, and that was the year when Mansell passed PK with 2 laps to go.
Oh, nice.
And that was real crowd power. We were all stood there. How unhealth and safety is this? We were stood on top of our crash helmets so we could see over the crowd, leaning against each other. But the power and the energy from that crowd was amazing. As Mansell, for those of you who don't know, he set off. He was in second place behind PK, and he decided to go for a pit stop for fresher tyres halfway through, and then just broke the lap record lap after lap after lap, and caught him with about 3 laps to go, and sold him with a dummy at the end that hanger straight, and got past and won the race, and run out of fuel on the slowdown lap. But the energy from the crowd was absolutely amazing. So, well, back to the racing point, we've got just 2 minutes to go now, so hopefully we're going to hang on to these last 7 drivers and make it to the finish.
Indeed. I am just going through different drivers, see how they get on. We're currently running with K3, going through, and I think about to go around Westfields at the moment. Up, down, dip, dangle. Is it dipple dangle? Stop dangle? Yeah, my
Dingle down.
Dingle dang. Dingle dangle. Dangle.
Well, it used to be worse, because that little that bend in the dip was with the dip was Dingledale, and then you went through Dingledale up to Dingledale Corner. Thank God they now call it Sheens. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. Dingledale.
So, who are you on board with at the moment?
At the minute, K3, I'm on board with, as he's about to go past the start-finish. And I'm going to now change.
He's had a fairly quiet evening out front there, isn't he? Once they shuffled themselves after the first couple of laps, he got himself out in front and not quite disappeared. He got a big gap after that first round of pit stops, and then really hasn't been seen since. And leaders just started the final lap, and Arusa has sort of dropped back a little bit from him, and has just never been able to really make it back up, has he?
Nah, not since really. It's well, not much else you can do as well. I know Brands Hatch isn't a very long track, but you've still only got 7 bodies on the actual circuit. It's just gonna get a bit spread out and wind down that way. I think I am going to jump on board with Flash if he'll let me. Thank you for this last lap. I'll tell you what, it does look good. I don't know if you can see that. He's got a little purple light inside his car, and it makes it look. It just makes it look really good. It makes it look so real. It's mad, isn't it?
I think those onboard shots in the dark just look. If you didn't have all that data around the outside of the screen, you just think that's it's a live feed.
Yeah.
I was quite. I spent. I met some friends at a pub, which is a bit of a novelty nowadays for us in the UK, and I was explaining to them how this all worked. And admittedly, they're guys would be actually older than me, and they were all quite impressed with how this is all how this all happens around the world. I'll let you take Flash to the finish, Daxi.
There we go, and he's doing, as his name says, flashing his lights away as he's going up to the start finish, flashing away, checkered flag. He's taken it, first position. I think that is his first position in the at least this season so far. So he's going to take maximum points there. Well done to him. I'm going to try and catch back up to second place, which as now is Hubris. After we did have the disconnect of CV Racer. Yeah, and at the moment he's just gone round. No, he's not. He's going up Dipdale and up to Sheens as we speak, and down towards Clark's, taking it nice and easy. Last lap, doesn't need to ruin it, just get it back in. And I think that's it. Has third place actually already, in theory, come in for first? I think the checkered flag's gone for him, hasn't it?
Not sure 100%. I'm just on a different screen at the minute. Yeah, but just looking at going back to Flash. Yeah, his best result's been a second, so that's his best result of the season. He's had a 4th and a 2nd.
Oh, excellent. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to stay on board with first place for the GT4s, who's just about to come across the line in a second as well. He's now hurtling down the Stirling Straight towards Clark's. And he takes the first position for the GT4s. What a night it's been, 2 hours.
It has gone fairly quickly. Admit the last half hour as we lost a few drivers did slow things up a bit.
As you can see,
but overall, it's...
list is there. Sorry.
They've gone from 12 to 7, which, you know, we had a lighter number to start with, which was not, you know, we understand with there's football going on, it's Father's Day and that kind of thing. But it'd be great if we get in 2 weeks' time when we're back, if we can get a full grid of all these drivers come back together for a proper race and not obviously have bad weather in the Czech Republic, which obviously affects the connection for some of the drivers. So it would be great if we could have that all that thing.